Comrie Todd.
Tapalaith Fagariali. Thank you, Presiding Officer. Presiding Officer, I am pleased to open this debate on Scotland's Summer of Sport and do so as my first debate since being reappointed as Minister for Sport. On the note of first, this is the first time I've spoken in the Chamber since being elected, so I want to thank the people of the Highlands and Islands for electing me, and I wish the very best of luck to my successor, David Green, in Caithness, Sutherland and Ross. Many members will be aware that I have had the privilege of serving in the role of Sports Minister since 2021. And during that time, I have seen at close hand the profound and positive difference that sport and physical activity can make to people's lives across Scotland. Sport improves physical and mental health. It strengthens communities. It boosts resilience and confidence, enriches lives and opens doors to new opportunities. That's why sport and physical activity play such a central role in our population health framework and our wider ambition to reduce health inequalities across Scotland. Introducing young people to regular, enjoyable physical activity at an early stage significantly increases the likelihood that they'll remain active throughout their lives. And it's during these formative years that we nurture physical confidence, develop fundamental skills and foster a lifelong appreciation for movement. And that's why we announced significant additional investment of £20 million in the 26-27 budget to deliver a nationwide Summer of Sport programme, a programme that's designed to make this a truly transformational summer for children and young people right across Scotland. The Deputy First Minister officially launched the Summer of Sport programme on Monday the 25th of May at Pollok United Football Club, a glorious sunny day full of energy with young people inspired not just by the activities on offer, but by a visit from Scotland and Hearts goalkeeper Craig Gordon. That event captured exactly what this programme is about: inspiration, opportunity and inclusion, because this is a landmark summer for Scotland. I'll take your intervention.
Rachel Hamilton.
Taking the intervention. The point she's making about inclusion is really important because in rural areas, kids at school can't get the bus transport to get to the activities and the events and the pools and the assets. What more can the Scottish Government do to support the local authorities to ensure that they do become inclusive for everyone?
Minister.
So I'll come on to some of the Summer of Sport activities that are particularly targeted at rural areas, because representing a rural area myself, I recognise that challenge. In terms of the bus travel, of course, we're piloting the £2 bus fare cap in the Highlands and Islands, and it's been transformative. And we've seen an increase in the number of bus routes that are participating. So once that's rolled out all over Scotland, I think that will make a significant difference to the opportunities that young people have. And of course, that's one of the very good reasons to support it. Now, this summer, we have our men's national football team competing at the FIFA World Cup for the first time in 28 years. And we have the Commonwealth Games returning to Glasgow. Now, alongside that, Scotland's women's teams from cricket to hockey are also competing on the world stage and providing inspiration for the next generation. We've made a clear choice as a government that inspiration must not be passive. It must translate into real opportunity. Opportunity for every child in Scotland, regardless of their background or circumstance. However, we know that for too many children and young people, that opportunity does not yet exist or is out of reach. And we know the barriers that they face: cost, transport, lack of confidence, and in some cases feeling that sport is just not for them. That's why we've worked collaboratively with Sport Scotland and partners to design a programme that directly addresses those barriers. Now, at its heart, the Summer of Sport programme will deliver free, targeted or low-cost opportunities for children and young people to get active, to try something new and to stay active. It's a programme that's deliberately inclusive, designed to reach those who are currently underrepresented in sport, particularly children experiencing poverty, those living in remote and rural areas, disabled children, or those not currently engaged in physical activity. The overarching Summer of Sport Fund is twofold. The majority of funding has been allocated directly to all 32 local authorities. In addition, £1.75 million has been made available to Scottish Government bodies of sport, national partners and national organisations who have applied through an open competitive process. The model ensures both universal reach and targeted impact, and it recognises that while national leadership is important, the real strength of Scottish sport lies in our communities and in the partnerships that bring activity to life on the ground. I certainly will.
Call
That
Laura
point,
Mitchell.
the Minister might be aware that next week many young people across Scotland will be taking part in the World Cup Day of Dance, including Hopeman Primary School in my constituency. The initiative is inspired by the Men's World Cup success and promotes and celebrates Scottish country dance. Does she agree with me that we should do all we can to support participation in and celebration of Scottish country dance in our schools?
Minister.
Absolutely. So it wasn't until I travelled to France as Sports Minister that I realised that only in Scotland do we learn these country dances which we carry through our lives and use at every opportunity of celebration. Uniquely in Scotland, I think it's a fantastic thing and a great way to celebrate. And I come from a community that absolutely loves to have an Arcadian strip the willow right along our front street, which is now a beautiful promenade thanks to Scottish Government funding. Now, across the country, local authorities, leisure trusts, active schools networks, clubs and the third sector are working together to develop plans that reflect local need. Those plans include universal discounts and free access to programmes, targeted activity for priority groups, including children living in poverty, those with additional support needs, young carers and care experienced people, increased capacity and subsidised access. Festivals, events and multi-sport opportunities, leadership pathways and employability opportunities for young people, and outreach into communities that are currently underrepresented. But critically, they are not just about delivering activities, they are about building pathways. Pathways from a positive experience in a summer programme into what we hope is sustained participation in school, community and club sport. Because we know that one of the biggest challenges in sport is not just about getting people active, it's about helping people to stay active. Now, the role of our national partners and governing bodies is equally important. Across those programmes, some of the plans that we've had sight of so far have a focus on inclusive access, partnership-based delivery, local place-based approaches, workforce development and long-term sustainability. These are designed not simply to deliver a one-off experience, but to create a lasting engagement, lasting confidence and belonging. That's absolutely central to our ambition because the legacy of this programme has to extend far beyond this summer. So let me turn to some examples of what this looks like in practice. And whilst plans are still being developed, we do have some details on specific programmes. So the Camanachd Association, working in partnership with Scottish Golf, will deliver a joint rural sports programme designed to increase participation in shinty and golf among young people in rural Scotland. This programme will provide free or subsidised holiday camps in rural communities, removing barriers like cost, travel and equipment, and hopefully develop our next Scottish golfing star. It will focus on fun, inclusive, beginner-friendly activity, whilst also creating clear pathways into club sport and developing a local workforce of young coaches and volunteers. It's a powerful example of what we're trying to achieve, locally delivered inclusive provision that creates lasting impact. Can I check I will definitely get the time back? Certainly. Miles.
Miles Briggs.
I thank the Minister for taking this intervention. I welcome some of what she's outlined, but does she agree with me that it is concerning that the percentage of children now engaging in 1 hour of physical activity per day has declined by 8% since 2016? And how will these initiatives help turn that around in a school setting?
Minister.
So the member will be aware that all schools are expected to deliver at least 2 hours of physical education for all pupils in primary school and at least 2 50-minute periods for all pupils between secondary 1 and secondary 4 in the school week. We also, Scotland developed and has given to the world the Daily Mile programme, which encourages 15 minutes of walking, wheeling or running 3 times a week, and has a huge body of evidence to support the impact not just on physical and mental health, but also on learning ability in school. So be more than happy over the course of this term to pick up these issues with Miles Briggs. They're a passion of mine, and I would be more than happy to work with them to ensure that we are delivering for children in school. So, at local authority level, the project planned for delivery in Stirling focuses on community provision, strengthening clubs and developing the workforce, ensuring that activity is available not just during the summer holidays but all year round. And in Renfrewshire, there are proposals for a planned focus on coordinated local delivery, inclusive programmes, additional support needs provision and the development of young leaders, ensuring that programmes are shaped by the needs and voices of young people themselves. Now, what unites all of these examples is a clear commitment to that inclusion, partnership and sustainability. Now, we hope that the Summer of Sport will lead to an enhancement of the sporting system in a number of ways. We want more children and young people accessing local sport, facilitated by the wider partnerships developed through this investment, supporting the transition from summer of sport activities into club and community activity. We hope the programme will result in more inclusive provision, facilitated by inclusive training that will be made available to the delivery workforce across Scotland. And I've spoken quite a lot today about partnerships, but we expect stronger and more effective partnerships to be formed, leading to better joined-up local delivery. Ultimately, we hope that more children and young people in poverty are accessing sport on a regular basis. We want to ensure that no child, no matter where they live or what barriers they face, are left behind. Of course, achieving that ambition requires more than funding alone. It requires leadership, collaboration and the dedication of partners across Scotland. So I want to take this opportunity to thank everyone that's been or will be involved in designing and delivering this programme, from local authorities, leisure trusts, governing bodies, coaches, volunteers and community organisations. Work's well underway, with plans continuing to be developed and refined, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing the plans in action and to visiting projects across the country over coming months. Now, as part of the Summer of Sport, we are also working with the Scottish Football Association to deliver a celebration of football fund aligned with the FIFA World Cup, that momentous occasion, supporting organisations to use football to drive positive outcomes in communities. We're delivering a Health in the Community programme, targeting those with the lowest activity levels and helping them to become and remain active. And in Glasgow, the Commonwealth Games will be accompanied by a free, family-friendly live site in Kelvin Grove Park, bringing together people to celebrate sport, watch live action and take part in accessible activities. Together, these activities represent a comprehensive approach, one that connects inspiration at the elite level with participation at grassroots. The Summer of Sport is about much more than a single summer. It's a strategic investment in Scotland's future. It's about ensuring that the child...
The Minister's in our last few seconds, Mr McGregor.
It's about ensuring that the child who attends a session this summer has the opportunity to still be active in a year's time and throughout their lives. Because if we get it right, the impact will be felt long after this summer's event. This has the potential to be a truly transformative summer, a summer where inspiration leads to participation, where participation leads to habit, and where habit leads to lasting change. The message of this summer is clear. Game on.
Minister, could you move the motion?
I propose the motion.
Can I call Ms Bailey? 4 minutes.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. And I suspect, like others will do in the Chamber, I remember the World Cup campaign in 1998. I know it's hard to believe. But the hope, the aspiration, the sheer joy that is the Tartan Army. Now, I have to say we've never yet made it into the second round, but this could be our year, and expectation is indeed huge. I should of course say that it's not, despite reports otherwise, the first time in nearly 30 years that a Scottish football team is at the World Cup, because Scotland's women were there in 2019. That's all the more impressive given that the Scottish FA banned women from using club facilities for much of the 20th century and only took charge of the women's international side in 1998. So whilst it's right we celebrate the men's side competing in this year's tournament, let's also celebrate the way that football has changed for the better. Because football is now the #1 sport for girls and women in Scotland, with more than, I think, 1,000 grassroots teams, and yet women's football still faces significantly less investment, less coverage and less support than the men's game. So I hope we will change that. The UK Labour Government has in fact committed some £8 million to Scotland for grassroots sports facilities with an emphasis on women's football. So I would encourage the Scottish Government to match that or indeed go further so we can expand the women's game. In my local area, Dumbarton Football Club has started work on a new AstroTurf, again so that the women's team can train locally. And the Vale of Leven Football Club, which also has a women's team, and a very successful one, has ambitious plans to improve the facilities at this long-standing community club. And of course, this debate is about the summer of sport, not just football, although there are many, I think, some indeed on the government benches, hoping to attend. But in July, Glasgow will welcome athletes from across the world for the Commonwealth Games. This didn't happen by chance, but thanks to the hard work of all those who put Glasgow's plan together at very short notice, we will be able to cheer on the Scotland team. And aside from expecting a huge medal haul for the Scotland team, what's going to be the legacy of these games? Now, I think we would all acknowledge that the 2014 Commonwealth Games was supposed to lead to a more fit and healthy Scotland. Yet healthy life expectancy is actually going down. Only around 6 in 10 adults carrying out the recommended physical activity to stay healthy, and worryingly, children and young people are spending more and more time doing sedentary activities. Now, it's not often in government or in life that you get a second chance, but this time around, the Scottish Government must ensure that the Commonwealth Games leaves a legacy. A legacy that means more investment in community and grassroots sports. A legacy that means more investment in primary care and preventative health. And a legacy that means more opportunities for the athletes of the future. And I want to touch on swimming. Now, the Scottish Government made a commitment to free swimming lessons for every school child in Scotland. I think every primary school child, if I'm correct. Now, that has the support of parties across this chamber, and many of us included similar commitments in our manifestos. So we want you to make progress on this. And I want to press the Minister on just how this will be delivered. Because in my area, we currently have a waiting list for swimming lessons. That backlog is actually a hangover from COVID. But there's also a shortage of swimming teachers and a shortage of facilities. And I know that only 16% of young people from disadvantaged areas take part in swimming lessons. So there's a massive inequality here. So I'm genuinely interested to know what steps the Minister will be taking, and can she tell us when the commitment is likely to be delivered? And that's why we've moved the amendment we have today to try and accelerate that progress and get an indication of when the Government will do so. Let me end, Presiding Officer, by wishing all of Scotland's athletes and players the very best of luck for this summer. We will all derive great joy from their competition, and I'm sure the sportsmen and women will do us all proud. I move the amendment in my name.
Thank you very much. Can I call on Gillian Mackay? 7 minutes.
Thanks, Presiding Officer. We all know the evidence about the benefits of physical activity to help to prevent and manage conditions like cardiovascular disease, cancer and diabetes, and reduce symptoms of depression and anxiety. But the benefit to overall well-being, including tackling loneliness and enhancing brain health, aren't referred to as often, but are just as important. Sport can reinvigorate communities, give people purpose and somewhere to go when other spaces put barriers in their way. I've previously referenced in the Chamber the wonderful work that the community trusts at both Motherwell and Falkirk football clubs in my region do week in, week out. And for me, this is an example of the biggest takeaway from this debate. That while big set-piece sporting events should be a catalyst for participation, we need to make sure that promotion and, crucially, funding keeps sport accessible for the long term. And I'm pleased that the Minister has recognised that this is essential and that her examples extend to a diverse range of sports. The Scottish Greens believe the universal access to sport and physical activity is a right, not a privilege, because it's necessary to support the health of the nation. But unfortunately, too many barriers still remain. Taking part in sport and attending events as a spectator can be prohibitively expensive, whether that be the cost of tickets, uniforms, equipment or membership of clubs. Watching sport can be a gateway to getting more people involved, whether playing or volunteering. That's why the Scottish Greens want to work with Scottish Premier League football clubs to introduce a price cap of £25 for travelling away fans. This would widen access and ensure that fewer people were priced out of Scotland's national game. A cap has been in place in England for over a decade and means travelling fans do not pay more than £30 for a ticket. In March, it was announced that the £30 price cap on away tickets has been extended for a further 2 seasons, and clubs voted unanimously to keep the cap in place until the end of the 27-28 season. In the States, just 2 months ago, to tackle persistent concerns about sky-high tickets for the 2026 World Cup, New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani proudly announced a deal that would allow residents in New York to buy 1,000 World Cup tickets for $50 each. And yes, I'll take the intervention.
Mr Brown.
I thank her for giving way. Just back to the £25 cap in tickets. I'm a football supporter, a Kilmarnock sufferer, so I'd support that. But I'm just wondering how that would work in practice, because in England, clearly TV money dwarfs admission money and clubs get much more revenue. In Scotland, clubs rely on the money coming through the doors. So how would that work in practice? I'm for it, but I'm worried some clubs would actually suffer financially.
Ms Mackay.
I think there's more work we need to do on that national level to promote Scottish football, in particular that Premier League football outside of Scotland, to get that to generate more money from those TV rights. Falkirk are actually already doing £25 tickets for away fans, so I think there is a model there that other clubs could look at to be able to take that on themselves. £25 is a starting point as well for that conversation, and I think there's potentially somewhere to get to where clubs are comfortable with that crucially doesn't continue to price fans out of the game. But I think we should be working with both clubs and supporters' organisations to make sure that that's pushed forward. The First Minister said in January that he'd be happy to consider the issue. So now that the Minister for Sport is back in place, I hope she'll join me in making calls to cap away ticket prices. The Summer of Sport is an opportunity to break down some of the barriers to sport and physical activity, and I'm pleased the motion mentions opportunities for children and young people to take part in free and low-cost activities. We should be using these opportunities for young people to get parents, grandparents or whichever adults accompany these young people back into sport too. However, to secure the legacy of this Commonwealth Games, we need to get the basics right. Across my region, there are a number of publicly owned sport and leisure venues that are at threat of closure or are coming towards the end of their lifespan. In Motherwell, I've backed calls from constituents who are rightly concerned about the proposals to close the Aquatech. This leisure facility has been a vital part of the community for decades. It's one of the only accessible venues with good public transport connections and has been a lifeline for residents seeking a place to exercise, socialise and enjoy a healthy lifestyle. Venues like the Aquatech and many similar facilities across Scotland are not just important for fitness but for community cohesion. And if we want to improve the mental and physical health of the nation, we must invest in local facilities where friendships are built and people come together to support one another. We need to make sure that that next generation of elite athletes, of coaches and of lifelong sports enthusiasts have local and accessible places to go. We need to make sure that people can walk, wheel and cycle in their local areas, that having access to a car is not necessary for them to take part in sport. We rightly provide exercise referrals to allow people to improve their health with cheap or free access. These people are also less likely to drive, so local facilities are vital. That's not to say that regional or national facilities are not important, but a velodrome realistically won't be accessed by as many people as a green space that's suitable for cycling. The Summer of Sport has to be that catalyst to get people involved, but the investment has to keep up to make sure that the Summer of Sport lasts longer than a Scottish summer usually does. We believe sport should be about the joy in taking part in physical activity and not about huge profits for industries which harm our health and extract wealth from sporting achievements. And that's why we want to see sport take place in an environment that promotes health, free from sponsorship by industries that would harm it. It's disappointing, therefore, that two of the partners involved in the Commonwealth Games are Coca-Cola and Jubel Beer. I can't see how it's not at odds with an event that's meant to be about promoting healthy lifestyles through sport and physical activity. I'd be grateful if the Minister could advise what conversations she has had with organisers, particularly about alcohol sponsorship of the Games, and what message this sends, particularly because there's a focus for children and young people and their participation. The Summer of Sport is an opportunity to spread the joy of taking part in sport to people all over Scotland. It's a truly worthwhile investment which has the potential to improve Scotland's health and well-being immeasurably. On behalf of the Scottish Greens, I want to wish all those taking part the very best and hope that the next debate we have on sport is about celebrating their success. And I move the amendment in my name.
Thank you. I call Miles Briggs. 6 minutes, please.
Thank you, Deputy Presiding Officer. And this is my first contribution since being returned to serve as a Member of Parliament for the Edinburgh and Lothians East region. I want to start by paying tribute to a number of colleagues who have not been returned, particularly my former Lothian MSP colleague Sue Webber, and thank her for the service which she gave to my region over the last 5 years, but also to pay tribute to colleagues Ash Regan, Martin Whitfield and Angus Robertson for their service to my community as well. As with the start of every session, it's been both refreshing and positive to hear the first speeches of new members and look forward to hearing those this afternoon as well. I think it takes about 6 months before you become cynical in this building, but it is good to hear the positive energy being brought to the debates. And I distinctly remember our former colleague Bruce Crawford saying to me when I was elected 10 years ago that 5 years will fly by and to make sure that you use your voice in this place to make a difference. Now, I didn't believe in that 5 years would fly by, but it certainly does. So my advice to new members, if they will take it, is to make sure that in the next session, in this session, you do what you want to do as MSPs for your community. That is what we are here for, and I wish you all well in that. Now, this debate is a great opportunity to highlight the cross-party support and how this summer of sport, which is about to be enjoyed by us all, can make a real difference. And I hope will inspire our nation, especially around what the pressure being placed now on Scotland's men's football team competing in the 2016 FIFA World Cup, but also our athletes competing in the Commonwealth Games taking place here at home in July. I have to say, though, that I am sorry and disappointed that to date Parliament has had little or no opportunity to see an event around the Commonwealth Games ahead of our summer recess. I hope that can be urgently corrected and an event will be hosted for our athletes to help inform MSPs and our communities of these games and make sure that ahead of the open ceremony our Parliament has actually welcomed them to this building. Because Glasgow 2026 is Scotland's opportunity to turn a landmark summer of international sport into lasting participation, pride and opportunity for communities across our country. It is, I think, telling and important that all the amendments for this debate this afternoon, including my own, recognises that sport should be accessible to all people in Scotland, irrespective of background or personal circumstances, and recognises the commitments made to ensure that physical education is supported in schools, and as Jackie Bailey has outlined, specifically around manifesto commitments we all made around swimming, which I think is important that we do see a timetable and how that policy will be taken forward and has cross-party support across this chamber. And as with many countries hosting any major sporting event, I think there is often always concern over over-promising and around legacy and how sporting events will deliver and can actually deliver a positive impact on the health of a nation. And I have to say that I have, though, been impressed by Glasgow 26 organisers and the realistic goals that they have set to date. The Glasgow 26 school programme, for example, invites every school and youth organisation in Scotland to get inspired, to get active and get involved in as Glasgow prepares to welcome athletes from 74 Commonwealth nations. Now, that programme is designed to be inclusive and accessible with flexible activities that can be delivered in classrooms, assemblies, playgrounds and youth settings. And school and youth leaders can use free, ready-to-use learning resources covering different subjects around curriculum areas from early years up to upper secondary. The school batons relay invited children and young people to design the baton and a relay between classes or schools to take part ahead of the games as well. And as it already has been mentioned, I hope that post-games we can look back at how the sporting stars, whose names will soon become household names across the country, can inspire our young people across our country, helping turn a summer of elite sport into opportunities and participation, learning, confidence and wider engagement for young people across Scotland. It's also welcome to see the work which is being taken forward to make these games some of the most para-inclusive on record. Glasgow 26 will feature 47 para-sport medal events, making it the largest integrated para-sports programme in Commonwealth Games history. Parasport will be fully integrated across 6 of the 10 sports in Glasgow 26, and I think that's a really welcome step forward. These include para-athletics, swimming, track cycling, bowls, powerlifting and wheelchair basketball. Finally, and as the Minister already has, can I also take this opportunity to pay tribute and thank the more than 3,000 volunteers known as the Glasgow 26 Legends. I met many of them when the Games were being held last, and here in Edinburgh we hosted the diving. They really helped make those Games so welcome, and I know that they will do that again. But to conclude, Deputy Presiding Officer, this summer has the potential to truly inspire us all. We on the Scottish Conservatives benches send our best wishes to all of Scotland's athletes competing, and I move the amendment in my name. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I call making their first speech Victor Curry, around 7 minutes.
Deputy Presiding Officer, thank you for calling on me. I welcome you to your new place and congratulate the Minister on her reappointment. And it's a privilege to rise to make my maiden speech in this chamber. I'm deeply honoured to stand before you today as a newly elected Reform member for the Highlands and Islands electoral region. I'd like to offer my thanks to all those who made our successful electoral campaign possible, including the party director, our leader, regional chair, all the candidates, activists and volunteers, and of course the voters who've put their faith in my party. I offer thanks too to all the staff and volunteers across Scotland who took on the role of tellers and their admirable display of concentration and stamina for hours and hours counting votes one by one. They're an often overlooked group in an election, but whose contribution make our precious democracy possible. And I want to take this opportunity to congratulate our national football team, in common with other members that have done so already, both on their qualification and to offer our best wishes for the World Cup campaign. Now, I notice the First Minister isn't in the chamber and wonder if perhaps he's sitting by the phone hoping for a call-up from Steve Clarke for a place on the squad. Perhaps in the position of striker. After all, his independent strategy has given him plenty of practice at kicking the can down the road. In keeping with parliamentary tradition, I want to pay tribute to all of my regional predecessors, regardless of party, who have served the region diligently. While members in this chamber will inevitably hold different political views, we can all respect the hard work, dedication and long service they have given to the people of the Highlands and Islands. I step into this role with a commitment to build on their efforts and to advocate for the needs of these communities, and look forward to spending the next years travelling to every corner of the area to do just that. And one thing's for sure, my camper van is one that will not be spending much time on the driveway. The Highlands and Islands is a region of unmatched, breathtaking beauty. From the bustling streets of Inverness, the shores of Argyll, to the furthest reaches of our island communities, it is a vast and diverse region that gives Scotland so much. Ben Nevis, the UK's highest peak, Orkney's rich Viking history and fertile farmlands, the wool industry of Shetland and the Harris Tweed of the Western Isles. The best whisky in the world, home to 4 of the 5 Scottish whisky regions, an encyclopedia of tartans and Highland dress itself. The Highlands and Islands not only give us world-class industry and tourist destinations, contributing much to our economy, but give us much of what Scottish culture is itself. Now, I'm delighted to be here in my first debate addressing the Government's motion on sport. I would submit that it's an area of discussion that is often overlooked in the ebb and flow political discourse. Human beings have evolved to be active creatures, and modern sedentary lifestyle has pulled us away from our natural state. An active lifestyle is an important tool of both prevention and management of mental health conditions and long-term physical conditions, as we've heard, such as diabetes, obesity, cardiac problems, amongst others, and all the costs that brings to the taxpayer, health service, and the lived experience of these patients. And in the promotion of an active and healthy lifestyle, sport has a huge advantage over the other elements of health strategies, such as diet changes and habit sensation. It's really good fun, so long as individuals have an equal and regular access to a wide range of different sporting activities to try, so they can find out what works for them and what they enjoy the most. It doesn't work if you just force everyone to do one sport or only offer a few. People need accessible infrastructure and opportunities to figure out for themselves where their passion lies in order to see these benefits, keep the consistency and improve health outcomes. I welcome a lot of what the Minister has said today. Certainly in terms of intention, I think there's a real aspirational ambition there, which I salute. But as a party, our main criticisms of Scotland's 2026 Summer of Sport revolve around the risk of missing the most vulnerable low-income families due to hidden costs and the economic instability of a one-off funding spike following years of stagnation. While we've heard the championing of £20 million of investment as a major milestone, sporting bodies, local councils and anti-poverty campaigners have raised critical structural concerns. Now, while the programme mandates that councils prioritise families facing socio-economic disadvantage, critics argue that free or low-cost sessions are not enough to guarantee equal access. There are hidden cost barriers that we're worried about, because even if a sports session is entirely free, low-income families face steep secondary barriers, including high cost of specialised sports, where if they want to take it on long-term, or equipment, and expensive, unreliable public transport to get children to the venues. There's a rural isolation disadvantage, as rural and remote low-income families are systematically sidelined. While all authorities have received funding, as we've heard, the number of localised, extended overnight camps, say in Inverness or Oven, is functionally inaccessible to island families or an isolated community if transport links such as ferries or roads are not properly funded and maintained. There's also a nutritional shortfall worry as well. So while some regional programmes, like Dumfries and Galloway, have attempted to integrate free food provision, there's no standardised nationwide mandate ensuring that all children are fed. And that comes to criticisms regarding long-term funding. Now, national sporting bodies have welcomed the injection, but point out that it highlights severe systemic funding flaws. And Reform agrees that this initiative merely papers over years of standstill budgets. Prior to this sudden overall cash boost, sports organisations in Scotland endured 5 consecutive years of standstill funding. The sports governing bodies led Running on Empty campaign highlighted that years of inflation and flatlining budgets have left grassroots sports facilities critically weak. Reform argues that this package is a temporary band-aid rather than a sustainable financial model. And we face a cliff edge. The Summer of Sport funding is explicitly structured as a fixed finite pool scheduled to run out by spring 2027. Club operators argue that willfully spiking public interest via major events like the FIFA World Cup and Commonwealth Games will create a massive wave of youth demand that local clubs will lack the long-term infrastructure, staff or funding to support once the campaign ends. And then we have volunteer burnout. The rush to roll out a massive short-term regional focused programme relies heavily on volunteer labour and youth leaders. Sports analysts warn that without sustained long-term funding to recruit and retain paid qualified coaches, this sudden pressure on local volunteer systems is unsustainable and risks rapid burnout. For these reasons, Reform UK has well-founded reservations about this initiative. It is money that should be used to fund and expand our existing infrastructure, to promote grassroots engagement and mass participation to achieve a wealthier, healthier Scotland. The vision of Reform UK and an ambition that should be shared by all members of this chamber. There's a real danger here that the way it is currently structured, it will be a lot like free tuition fees and the Help to Buy scheme that's just been announced, that it will benefit middle-class families at the expense of working-class taxpayers disproportionately. Now, looking at my remaining allotment, unless, Deputy Presiding Officer, you're willing to award me a generous Celtic Football Club level of added injury time, I should probably come to a close. So let me finish by saying this. As a reform member for the Highlands and Islands region, I will strive to be a robust champion for our communities, always advocating the Union as the bedrock of our peace and prosperity now and in the future. And let me be clear, if anyone from the SNP, member, minister, cabinet secretary or First Minister comes to this chamber with fanciful, poorly thought through bills or motions, then Reform UK will be here to scrutinise them, challenge them and send them homeward to think again. Thank you.
We now have the final opening speech from Liam MacArthur.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. Can I congratulate Mr Curry on his first speech? Can I also welcome the Minister back to her position, a position I know that she is absolutely passionate about? And can I associate myself very strongly with the wise advice of Miles Briggs at the beginning of his comments earlier. Presiding Officer, at the risk of potentially traumatising Jackie Bailey, I vividly recall being in the Netzahualcoyotl Stadium on the outskirts of Mexico City to watch Scotland crash out of the 1986 World Cup, the last time the competition was played in that country. A drab 0-0 draw against 10 doughty Uruguayans heralded our latest ignominious exit and left me and the Tartan Army resplendent in our kilts and sombreros, crying into our coronas. So I certainly share the mounting excitement of the nation, despite Trump and FIFA's best efforts to suck every last drop of joy out of the experience. But I'm alive to the pain and despair that may inevitably be just around the corner. That mounting excitement, though, points to the potential legacy the Scotland men's team's success could have. For those of us old enough to be guilty of taking World Cup qualification for granted, we are now witnessing the joy and disbelief of all those under 30 for whom this is wholly uncharted territory. The Glasgow Commonwealth Games later in the summer may not have the same novelty factor, but as we've seen before, it too can inspire future generations to get active in sport. And by active in sport, I don't just mean participating as athletes or footballers. To build a genuine legacy, yes, we need facilities, equipment available and accessible, but we need coaches, officials and volunteers too. It's they who open up opportunities, nurture talent and facilitate involvement. I saw this firsthand last summer when Orkney hosted the International Island Games, the largest multi-sport event anywhere in the UK in 2025. An outstanding success showcasing Orkney at its best, the hospitality, organisation and overall quality of the experience for all involved, including splendid Orkney 2025 ties. It's raised the bar for sport in Orkney and no doubt in Shetland and the Western Isles too, highlighting what can be achieved if we provide athletes, coaches and volunteers with the tools and the support they need. But it's not just at an elite level. This is about encouraging and inspiring people of all ages and abilities to get involved in sport, but physical activity of any kind, for the physical and mental health benefits, for the friendships and social opportunities, even just for the chance to shut out the never-ending news cycle for a bit. Orkney 2025 was positive in so many ways, but seeing Arcadians feel such pride and joy in sharing their home with 3,000 fellow islanders was something that will live with me forever and demonstrates the true power of sport. While the Island Games takes a year off before landing in Faroe next year, the Summer of Sport in Orkney has plenty to look forward to, starting with the Junior Inter-County this weekend. Orkney's young footballers, netballers, athletes, swimmers and hockey players will seek to retain the Stewart Cup for a fourth year against their Shetland counterparts, who will be desperate to turn the tables. While competition is always fierce, this unique contest has created lifelong friendships and bonds between our island communities over the last 80 years. The same can be said too of the North Isles Sports, now in their 76th year, which will take place in Stronsay later this month. Westray will again be the team to beat, and that pains me as a Sandy man, though hosts Stronsay are reigning champions in the Blue Ribbon event, which is the tug of war. Junior Intercounty and North Isles Sports may not grab the headlines of World Cups and Commonwealth Games, but entry is free, travel costs are reasonable, and there's little prospect of being left crying into your corona. Thank you.
Thank you. And we move on to the open debate. And could I ask members who wish to speak to press their request to speak button? Jenny Minto, who has 5 minutes.
Thank you, Presiding Officer, and I welcome you and your colleagues to your post. I'd also like to congratulate my colleagues Siobhan Brown and Marie Todd in their re-election, and also welcome back Marie Todd to her sports portfolio. I know how much she loves it. Ms Todd and I have a common goal: to increase the amount of Gaelic spoken in this chamber. I'm on my 6th year of Duolingo, and on Friday this phrase popped up on my screen. Is Lua Orm politics? Is Charlam Iman? I dislike politics. I prefer Shinty. Now, that's not entirely true. However, these two subjects are not only linked in Duolingo, they are linked in my life too. Shinty could be described as the beating heart of sport in Argyll and Bute, and it was only after being elected that I experienced the excitement of a Shinty match. The joy of seeing the young players tournament at the Dalmally Show, to attending the Macaulay Cup final in Oban last year, and I look forward to the Camanachd Cup and Macaulay Cup being in Oban this September. The passion, the camaraderie, the rivalry, the pride of winning, the pain of losing, the togetherness, all part of life's skills, whether playing or spectating. And I'm so pleased to hear the Minister's fantastic announcement about the joint working between Shinty, Camanachd Shinty and golf, because of course my constituent Bob McIntyre is a great example of shifting from one discipline to the other, having played with Oman Cabanach and now playing on the greens of golf courses across the world. As I've just said, the togetherness, the life skills that you get, this is what you see on a Shinty field. And this is one of the many reasons that the summer support is so important, and why I believe that ensuring that there are opportunities for participation in sport, regardless of where you live, are absolutely key. Sport teaches life skills, but also a healthy way to thrive. The Oban Atlantis Centre and Lorne and Oban Healthy Options promote exactly this. Through their fitness, prehab and rehab sessions, I've heard from young and old the difference a focus on swimming, exercise and sport has made to their health and recoveries is inspirational. And also the Happy Wee Health Club in Oban finds colourful ways to engage young people in sport and fitness. The Summer of Sport, as the Minister said, links clearly with the population health framework. And as both the Minister and Gillian Mackay have noted, physical activity provides opportunities to connect, to come together in activities that inspire and motivate. Sport in Argyll and Bute is inextricably linked to its landscape and seascape. Argyll and Bute, and I disagree with Donald McKinnon in his opening speech, my apologies, Argyll and Bute is Scotland's most beautiful constituency, not just because of the landscape and the seascape, because of the people. And I would like to thank them for returning me as their MSP. To serve the people of Argyll and Bute is the biggest privilege of my life. 2 weeks ago, I attended a Surfers Against Sewage, or as the school kids in Tynabrewich say, a jobby-free sea event. I spoke to many people who emphasised how much they valued having the wonderful sea resource on their doorstep, especially on their ability to exercise and enjoy sport. However, we have to ensure that we keep our seas as clean as they can be. Whether it's paddling at Tynabrewich, wild swimming in Seal, surfing in Tyree, stone skimming in Easdale, yachting around the nooks and crannies of the coastline of Argyll and its isles, or being part of the international clipper race that's sailing into Oban in July. These are all fantastic opportunities for us to showcase Scotland and Argyll and Bute on the international stage, as well as keeping active. So we need to continue to invest to ensure our coastline and waterways are at the highest standard. I welcome too the investment that's been given to every primary school child to learn to swim. This is a policy that will make a real difference, not only in supporting swimming facilities in our communities, but the skills that will undoubtedly save lives. The length and breadth of Argyll and Bute communities continue to work together to ensure sport and exercise are accessible. The fabulous Adventure Oban are a community-led outdoor activity charity supporting equal access for all to Oban's natural playground. This weekend, their Big Bike Weekend is returning with lots of fun for all the family. And Tayan Loan has just confirmed that it will be building a biking pump track, a fantastic example of a village community working together, thinking big and using sport and exercise as the focus of their community cohesion, invigorating their community. Now, I will just briefly touch on ferries. The ferry timetable can be a barrier to participation in sport for island children, and this was raised with me on the fantastic new Isle of Islay ferry by a group of parents. And I met with CalMac this morning and pressed home to them that I hope, along with Transport Scotland, they ensure the community voice is heard in future timetable discussions. Now, I know I'm drawing to a close, Presiding Officer. I started with a Gaelic phrase, and I'm going to end with one. It's the final line of a poem, Iman, written by our Gaelic macker, Peter Mackay, penned for the opening of the Shinty Museum in Inverness. But I think it rings true for all sports, and especially for the summer of sport. Shoanish, Nachtig Shiv, a Dehoman. OK, then. Won't you come and join me in Shinty? Thank you.
Thank you. And I remind colleagues that there should be no interventions or interruptions on a first speech. To make a first speech, Colm Merrick.
Thank you, Presiding Officer, and congratulations on your election to your new office. Generations ago, a young man named Patrick left Sligo and crossed the sea to Glasgow. Patrick drove the city's trams, carrying people through the bustling streets of a rising powerhouse. In Glasgow, he met Annie from South Uist, two communities, two traditions bound by love and shared resilience. Patrick and Annie married and raised 5 children in the heart of the city. One of those children was John. And in their house, alongside faith, education was held in the highest regard. For them, learning was the ultimate deliverer. John took this lesson to heart and became a teacher, a domine in the truest sense of the word. Now, history has a way of moving in circles. John eventually crossed back over the sea to Ireland and fell in love with an Irish lass named Una. Returning to John's Scotland, they began their married life, renting a small attic room in Annie's Land in Glasgow. But the pull of home was strong. Una longed to be nearer her family, so they boarded the literal boat back to Ireland, where for decades John raised the educational bar for generations of young people. Yet the song of my family remains the same, and its chorus always involves a sea to be crossed. So it was that one day Una drove one of her sons to Belfast and on to Larne, to catch the boat to Scotland, and I arrived in Glasgow, where I met Katrina from the Isle of Lewis. And we fell in love, and now gathered round us, we have our own crew. Presiding Officer, that's an abridged version of how I came to be standing here in our Scottish Parliament. A story of chance encounters, packed suitcases, and of quiet sacrifices across generations. A long, winding road that has led me to the immense privilege of representing the people who sent me here. And they are the constituents and residents of Glasgow Annie's Land, whose trust I will work every day to repay. It enhances the privilege to follow in the footsteps of someone who served Glasgow Annie's Land with such distinction. My much-loved predecessor also earned international recognition for his work on nuclear disarmament, including being named in a Nobel Peace Prize nomination through his leadership of Parliamentarians for Nuclear Non-Proliferation and Disarmament. He was and remains the indefatigable Bill Kidd. Presiding Officer, turning to today's debate, this summer does represent a unique opportunity. Scotland hosts the Commonwealth Games while our men's national football team returns to the World Cup stage, just in case anybody missed that. The Games will bring together around 3,000 athletes from 74 Commonwealth nations and territories. I've already been in contact with the organisers and look forward to meeting with them next week to ensure that these games are a huge success and deliver a lasting legacy for the city and beyond. But it won't only be the lifting of the World Cup or medals at the Games that mark success, it will be the legacy that is created. The offer of free, inclusive sporting opportunities for children and young people is particularly welcome. For many families, the cost of participation can be a significant barrier, and by removing those barriers, we open doors for more young people to discover a sport they love, to build confidence, to make friends and enjoy the many benefits participating in physical activity can bring. We now know participation in sport can improve mental well-being, reduce social isolation, strengthen community connections and create a sense of belonging. Whether it is a child learning to swim for the first time, a local football club welcoming new members, or community volunteers supporting activities throughout the summer, these experiences help build stronger and healthier communities. I'm especially encouraged by the Universal Learn to Swim offer for primary school children. Swimming is not only a sporting activity, but an essential life skill that can save lives. And that's particularly true when we think of the many tragic water-related deaths recently in the UK heatwave. And our thoughts and wishes go out to the families and friends so affected by these terrible tragedies. Presiding Officer, if these initiatives are to create a lasting legacy, we must ensure that today's investment delivers long-term opportunities. And I am keen to learn more about how success will be measured, how we assess whether young people remain active, and how we measure the impact on health outcomes, community engagement, and the reduction of barriers to participation. In Annie's Land, this legacy will see the new world-class athletics track at Scotstoun Stadium being gifted to the City of Glasgow, ensuring local clubs and athletes have continued access to a state-of-the-art sporting facility. The stadium is, of course, also home to the hugely successful Glasgow Warriors rugby team, who will, it could be said, kick off Scotland's Summer of Sport when they play in the semi-finals of the BKT United Rugby Championship semi-final this Saturday at Murrayfield. And I wish them every success. Presiding Officer, the greatest success of Scotland's Summer of Sport will be seen not in the excitement of a single summer, but in healthier, more connected communities for years to come. Thank you.
To make a first speech, I called Arshad Ahmed, who has 5 minutes.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. In my first speech in this Parliament, I would like to thank the voters of Edinburgh and Lothian East for their trust in me. The Scottish Labour Party has given me a political home. I thank and acknowledge the support of Anna Server, Jackie Bailey, and Kate Watson, and the members who supported me. Presiding Officer, 32 years ago, when I came to Edinburgh, my first job was as a dishwasher in a restaurant. A few years later, my wife and I opened our own shop in Musselburgh. We worked hard. It was open all hours. In those early days, it was just us running it, often with our young children in a pram behind the counter. The business flourished and is now managed by my sons. Running a shop is never dull. You experience the highs and lows of life. We met the most wonderful people in the community. They are now our good friends. I learned so much from them. Across the diverse area I represent, there are thousands of stories like mine. The great city of Edinburgh has given me so much. It is the place I have lived, worked, and brought up my family for the past 3 decades. Our children went on to study IT, science, and law. I want to make sure all Scottish children have access to the best possible education, which will help them develop into confident and skilled citizens. While the Edinburgh and the Lothian region is a fantastic place to live, it also has serious challenges. We should never forget that many people are experiencing very hard times. I know the pressure many people in this area face. I would like my utmost to speak for them and represent them. I have experienced the pain of seeing loved ones stuck of years on an NHS waiting list. In this Parliament, I'll speak up for the patient and their rights to get the treatment they need. I will also campaign for better public health, which brings me to sport. There is no better way to stay healthy than regular exercise. For me, it is badminton twice a day. Sadly, my days as a fast bowler are over. But what is special about sport is that also brings communities and nations together. Scottish Labour wants to promote the health and community benefits of sport across the country and to people from all backgrounds. This summer, we can celebrate the very best of sport. Like everyone in Scotland, I will be cheering on Steve Clark, Andy Robertson, and the Tartan Army. We all wish the Scotland team well in the World Cup. And then the Commonwealth Games will be returning to Glasgow this summer. Glasgow's sporting bodies are to be congratulated on making this happen. But Edinburgh will be represented as well. The city has hit gold before, famously through Sir Chris Hoy and Alan Wells. I wish all our athletes the very best of luck. And while we cheer on our elite sports people, let's not forget the community sports that happen every day. The 2014 Games was supposed to leave a legacy, but sadly, this was not delivered. I hope the Scottish Government will not miss this opportunity again. The Commonwealth Games should be the start of a new focus on promoting sport in Scotland, investing our community sports halls, swimming pools, and pitches, investing in schools so every child can live up to their potential. This should be the legacy of the 2026 Commonwealth Games. A healthier, happier Scotland where everyone can thrive. Thank you, Presiding Officer.
To make a first speech, Alan Smith.
Deputy Presiding Officer, thank you. It's a pleasure to see you in your place, and I'm delighted to make my first formal contribution to this chamber in this Summer of Sport debate. As we heard from our excellent Minister, who so clearly loves her job, it's upbeat, it's aspirational, it's celebrating excellence, it's supporting others, it's being part of something bigger than ourselves. Maybe there's something for all of us in how we do our politics in this place going forward as well. I'm also, if the chamber will forgive a brief indulgence, I'm deeply proud to be making my third first speech, because this isn't my first Parliament. I was first elected into the European Parliament in 2004, and no, I don't want to know how old some members were in 2004. Thank you, but I proudly represented Scotland there until 2019, when I was elected into the House of Commons to represent Stirling, my home. And I'd served there for 5 years during a turbulent period, and I now find myself representing Stirling in this chamber, our national Parliament. And I'm deeply proud and deeply grateful of the people of Stirling and Stirlingshire that they kept faith with the SNP and kept faith with me. And I'm deeply grateful to my campaign team and everyone who supported me. It's only Winnie Ewing, that the late, great, much-missed original Madame Ecos, that served in all three parliaments. So I'm an obscure pub quiz question, if nothing else. But I mentioned that in order to stress to colleagues, I'm new here, but I've got 20 years of frontline parliamentary experience. I'm used to working across borders, across party lines, to cut through the chaff, the day-to-day urgent trivia, and get stuff done for the people that we all serve. Because the election's over. We are all representatives of the people. We all have a job to do. And the Summer of Sport is really important because, goodness me, people need something to look forward to. Like me, I'm sure colleagues knocked a lot of doors over the last few months, and The national mood, however you define it, isn't good. I've not seen anything like it since the 2009 European campaign at the very height of the MP expenses scandal. There is a disconnect, let's call it that at best, between politics and politicians of all colours and the people that we serve. And I don't think it's a temporary scunner factor. I think it's a symptom, a factor of a much deeper malaise. There is a real anxiety out there amongst the people that we serve. And in a rich country like Scotland, we can do better than this. In a rich country like the UK, we can do better than this. People feel disempowered, fearful from the future. They feel powerless in the face of big macro stuff like climate change, technological, demographic changes. Too many people feel the system doesn't work. Too many people feel the system doesn't work for them. And I think we can do better. Now, the election was, of course, a remarkable, resounding, landslide victory for my party. But on these benches, we know that the job's not over. The job's just beginning. We need to rebuild that trust, and we all need to work hard to do so. And for the members who'd say the SNP's been in power for 19 years, of course we have. We take our share of that disconnect. But surely we must also admit, in a spirit of intellectual honesty, we've been in power in the SNP in a devolved context with partial, limited powers. We've been able to do a lot of stuff. We've not been able to do everything. And that's why we believe on these benches with our friends the Greens, the biggest pro-independence majority this Parliament has seen, that we need to complete the powers of this Parliament with independence in Europe. The change that people need, the change that people yearn for, the change that the people deserve will not be delivered by the Westminster parties. It can only be delivered by independence in Europe, taking the full powers of this Parliament to serve the people that we all serve. So I believe the people of Scotland have outgrown the devolution settlement endorsed in the 1997 referendum. The things that people are most worried about, the cost of living, energy costs, a sluggish economy, our place in the EU, our voice in the wider world, all of these are objectively reserved matters, which can only be touched round the sides by this Parliament. We want to complete the powers of this Parliament and make sure that we can act on the issues that people care most about. So I'd say to the opposition parties, if you can't work with us on that, change is coming, change is here, change is necessary, work with us on that. I didn't come into politics to administer the status quo. I came into politics, as did everyone in the SNP, to change the face of Scotland. We all know that change is necessary. Let's all work on that together. And any member from any group who brings forward real proposals in good faith will have a willing partner and a willing colleague in me. So we've got a lot that we can be looking forward to, and time is difficult, but Stirling is a place where we take sport really seriously, and I represent a lot of people who are really looking forward to this summer of sport. Sport's bigger than ourselves, it unites us, and I think there's something for us all to be looking forward to in that. Thank you, Deputy Presiding Officer.
And to make a first speech, I call Stephen Bonner, who has 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Presiding Officer, and allow me to welcome you to your new place. It is an incredible honour to rise to speak for the first time as the MSP for Uddingston and Belsill, my hometown, in Scotland's National Parliament. Before I begin, I want to acknowledge my predecessor, Stephanie Callaghan, and thank both her and her office team for their service to the people of the constituency and indeed to this Parliament. And I also want to thank every person who put their trust in me and the SNP at the recent election. Whether you voted for me, campaigned for me, challenged me on your doorstep, or simply shared your frustrations or hope of a better future, I thank you. Because while I have the privilege of sitting here in this magnificent chamber, this seat does not belong to me. It belongs to the communities and to the people I represent. From View Park to Whitehill, Uddingston to Bothwell, Belsill, Moss End, Hollytown to Carfin, and from Newthill to New Stevenson. These are proud communities, shaped by hard work, determination and solidarity. For generations, we were the beating heart of industrial Scotland. These days, the pits are closed, the miners' rods are gone, the steelworks, the brickwork and the Caterpillar factory no longer dominate the skyline. But the people remain, the families remain, and so too do the values that were so prevalent in those lost industries. These are the communities that helped build modern Scotland, from the invention of the Wilkie iron plough in Uddingston, which transformed agriculture across the world in the 1800s, to the achievements of two Nobel Prize winners, Sir James Black of Uddingston and David Macmillan of Belsill, Their contribution to our national story is immense. From factory floors to the biggest stages in the world, our communities have never been short of talent, endeavour or success. Those values and that success is perhaps nowhere more abundant than in sporting circles. And in a debate titled Summer of Sport, I think I can say with some considerable confidence that Uddingston and Belsill ranks alone as Scotland's great sporting hotbed. My constituency has produced double Paralympian Michael Kerr, world champion boxer Lawrence Murphy, youth world champion Michael McGurk, and many more whose achievements continue to inspire through the generations. European champion runners like the Belsill Bullet Tom McKean, who remembers him? While footballing gods like Sir Matt Busby, Billy McNeill, Jimmy Johnson and John Robertson have all held aloft the European Cup. Sporting greatness is indeed a forte of Uddingston and Belsill. Presiding officer, during the election campaign, I spent many months on the doorsteps talking to voters about their priorities. I spoke to workers finishing long, gruelling shifts, pensioners worried about making ends meet, young people wondering what opportunities their future will hold, and shattered parents doing everything they possibly can to stretch that pound a wee bit further. And while every conversation was different, there was one thing I heard time and time again. People feeling disconnected from politics and from their politicians. Too many people feel that decisions are made about them, not with them, and certainly not for them. That must change. And we must be that change, colleagues, because when this Parliament works well, it improves people's lives. And to me, that's what representing Uddingston and Belsill will always be about being accessible, answering the call, helping people navigate a system that far too often feels stacked against them. And it's about standing up for those people who need a voice. Presiding officer, we in this chamber, if we're serious about representing people, then we must also be serious about listening to them and the democratic choices they make. Because democracy did not end in 2014. For many people, it simply began. People just like me. I cast my first ever vote in 2014 in that referendum at 33 years of age. I have cast a vote in every single election since. Now, people can support independence and people can oppose independence. Both positions are legitimate in a democracy. What matters is that people continue to have a voice and that the democratic choices of the people of Scotland are respected. Those very people have just elected the biggest pro-independence Parliament ever. It is time they were respected. Presiding officer, I am proud of the values that have shaped me, proud of the heritage that has made me, forged in the steel and the coal that powered these nations for generations. Proud of where I come from and deeply honoured to represent its people in our national Parliament. And as Scotland looks forward to a summer of sport and lifting the World Cup, there will be moments where millions of us will come together for one cause, in hope and belief in our team and daring to dream about what might just be possible. And that spirit should not be confined to sport. The story of our communities has never been one of limitation, it has always been one of determination, of resilience and hope. And I believe in the potential of the people I represent, and I believe in the potential of Scotland too. Every day I have the privilege to sit here in this Parliament. I will seek to ensure that the people of Uddingston and Belsill have a voice that is heard, a corner that is fought for, and a future that is believed in. Thank you.
I call Jack Middleton, who has 5 minutes.
I hope I don't have 10 minutes. Thank you, Presiding Officer. I'm grateful for the opportunity to address the Chamber on an issue I care deeply about. Those who know me know how passionate I am about sport. I've been a keen runner for years. I had a short-lived career as an amateur rower in Stirling. And while I would strongly question the accuracy of its reporting, a few months ago, the Daily Record described me as a gym lover, leading to much hilarity in my friend group. But my real love has always been football. I have so many memories tied to the sport, and while today we've retold stories of McTominay's aerial acrobatics last year, for me 2025 was all about watching my local club, Aberdeen, lift the Scottish Cup next to my dad. As a boy, I remember winning Champion Street, an annual summer youth football tournament in the city. But I also remember the heartbreak of losing a school Scottish Cup semi-final. And next month, my old Sunday amateur team, Paisley Saints, will mark the terribly sad passing of our teammate and friend Richie Fleming with the second Charity Memorial Cup in his honour. Presiding Officer, I share these memories and stories to demonstrate that sport, in my instance football, builds skills within young people that they'll carry for the rest of their lives. Loyalty, dedication, teamwork. There's many, many more to pick from too. But the sad reality is that too many kids won't have the same opportunities that I had. I wasn't raised in hardship. I didn't want for anything. I was raised by a single mother in a small house, and while she didn't have much, every year she would get together the annual fees that had to be paid to play for my local boys' club. I always remember it was over £300. I remember that because carrying the money in an envelope to hand to the coach felt a big responsibility, because I knew it was a massive sum of money for my mum at the time. But, Presiding Officer, that was 20 years ago. Those fees that pay for booking football pitches, referees, tracksuits will be exponentially more now. And that money doesn't include the cost of new boots, new goalie gloves, the new football top that every kid wants every season. The reality is, for those below the poverty line, those fees, that kit, is unaffordable for a child, never mind for those with 3 or 4 in a household. And for a growing number of folk living on the margins, struggling to make ends meet, I worry that anything other than the very basic essentials will have to come to an end. Presiding Officer, I do appreciate, however, that while I believe in the importance of organised sport, the beauty of football worldwide is that at its most basic level, all you need is a ball. But for other sports, that's simply not the case. At the Paris Olympics, winning Olympians from these islands were 5 times more likely to have been privately educated than the general public. And when that comes to the Winter Olympics, that figure can be even higher. It's because the cost of access to many of these sports is simply eye-watering. To have that access, I would argue, in many cases, you need wealth and privilege. So, Presiding Officer, I welcome wholeheartedly the SNP government's £40 million investment that ensures this exciting Scottish summer of sport will provide more opportunities for kids, and I especially welcome universal free swimming lessons, one of the sports that I believe can be most inaccessible for those from deprived backgrounds. We know, Presiding Officer, that sport can have a positive impact on young people's lives. Yet those living in disadvantaged communities and the poorest households still face many barriers to that precipitation. So, over the course of this Parliament, I want to see us go further. I want to see us support families with sports membership fees. I want more help for families to afford sports equipment, greater funding to drive down the price of booking facilities for youth teams, and work with clubs to improve access to kids to watch their sporting heroes in the flesh. If we do that, we'll secure a healthier and more confident future for the next generation of Scots. Thank you.
We move to closing speeches, and I call on Adam Harley, who is making a first speech.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. As this is my first speech, I'd like to pay tribute to my predecessor, Rona Mackay, who served the people of Strathkelvin and Bearsden for a decade, and to thank her for her efforts in the community over that time. This is the first time the Lib Dems have won this seat at the Scottish Parliament, but I want to recognise the excellent local work done over the years by Jo Swinson and my current colleague at Westminster, Susan Murray. From Bearsden in the west through Bishopbriggs, Lennoxtown, Campsie and Torrance to Lenzie, Kirkintilloch and Twecker in the east, each part of Strathkelvin and Bearsden is brimming with history, natural beauty and, most importantly, the very best people. Over the last year, I've had the pleasure of meeting thousands of them, And as I said to many of them on the doorsteps, I can't promise to fix everything or to be perfect, but I do promise to work hard, to be centred on service and to bring your voice loudly and clearly to this Parliament. Being elected MSP for the area I grew up in and where I'm raising my family is an honour and a responsibility I do not take lightly. I will use this incredible opportunity I've been given to push for positive change. And opportunity is what it's all about. Providing young people with the right opportunities at the right time is a big part of why I got involved in politics. And often sport provides a gateway for those opportunities. As we've heard, it has an important part to play in mental and physical health, providing challenge and community. It's important that the Summer of Sport we have ahead helps to provide those opportunities at the grassroots level, so that all people from all backgrounds can access them. And to allow that to happen, we need to make sure local authorities are properly funded. Chronic underfunding of local councils has forced them to make cuts for years. Often leisure and sporting facilities are the first to be impacted. Right now, key facilities are under threat of closure, like the only diving school in the west of Scotland. 13-year-old Heather Graham from Bearsden in my constituency has won a gold medal for diving. She'd have to give up the sport entirely if her diving school in Ayr closes. I hope to hear a positive response from the Minister on that in her closing remarks. And as we look ahead to the World Cup, let's follow the lead of our own national team. It was their grit, audacity and teamwork that got them to the World Cup in the first place. I think we could use some of that here too. Presiding Officer, I plan to be really robust in holding the government to account and holding power to account. But in doing that, I will always be focused squarely on what truly matters to the people I represent. And they want us to work together to find solutions. They really just aren't interested in party politics or the political bubble. So many of them are struggling, really struggling, and they've lost faith in politics. They've lost faith in this place to improve their lives. They're tired of a political culture that rewards division with attention and punishes collaboration, and I'm tired of it too. We don't have time for all that anymore. We have to focus on fixing things and on getting things done. I know members across this chamber want to make things better for their constituents, and I think we should all work together to make that happen. I want to end with a wee story. My late grandfather was raised on a farm in the remote west coast of Ireland. He used to walk to school every day in bare feet. He came to Scotland as a young man and worked hard to build a future for his family. It's the same story for many of our grandparents. He actually bought me this suit when I was just 13 years old. He said it was far too big at the time, and it was too big at the time. But he said that one day I would grow into it. And I think he would have got a real kick out of seeing me wearing it in the chamber here today. So I dedicate this first speech to him and to my wee 3-year-old boy. And I hope in some way I've started to grow into this jacket. Now it's time to crack on with providing a better future for those who will come after us. Because I suppose at the end of the day, that's all of this, what all of this is really all about. Thank you.
I call on Rachel Hamilton to be followed by Mark Ruskell. Rachel Hamilton.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. Well, this summer is certainly going to be exciting, and I hope it is non-political and that we can all enjoy it, even if some people in this chamber don't like football. But I'm sure everybody will wish the participants, the volunteers and the spectators well. Now, I just want to touch on a few of the maiden speeches, Presiding Officer, because I thought Ershad Ahmed's speech was excellent, and I very much related to his involvement being a family man, but running a business as well, and bringing his young children into work. And I think it's lovely to see that we do have people in here that have run businesses and do understand the challenges of running a business. And I'd also like to pay tribute to Adam Harley as well. I don't know Adam Harley, but clearly he still fits his suit because he worked for Alex Cole-Hamilton, and Alex Cole-Hamilton obviously kept him very, very busy running around. But no, excellent speech, Mr Harley, because I think you're absolutely right about removing party politics from this specific topic that we're talking about. But also, I was really touched by what you said about the individual who was worried about losing facilities and has such talent. And I think that stems back to the real issue that we see here. But in general, congratulations to everybody who have made their maiden speeches today. And I also want to touch on what Liam MacArthur said, because he was absolutely right. I remember being a netball coach and umpire. I was really proud of doing that at Earlston High School. And we had 45 kids in the group, and we used to take them right through. And in fact, we went to the Scottish Schools Cup and played Gordonston, which is quite a renowned private school. And Earlston State School came second in the Scottish Schools Cup. So Liam MacArthur is absolutely right, and the role of umpires and coaches are really important. We should very much support them. I want to pay tribute to Borders wheelchair racer Samantha Kinghorn. She's originally from Gordon in my constituency, and many of you will know who she is. She was and is a key participant in the 2026 Commonwealth Games in Glasgow, and rather than competing this time because she's expecting a baby, she is serving as an official athlete ambassador, having stepped back from racing to start her own family, which is fantastic. And Sammy was one of the first athletes to be selected for Team Scotland in 2014, and she made her Commonwealth debut in front of a home crowd after finishing 5th in the T54 1500 metres final in Glasgow, and improved her result by finishing 4th at Gold Coast 2018 before securing her long-awaited podium moment at Birmingham 2022, where a nail-biting finish saw her clinching the bronze medal. My colleague Miles Briggs noted that to date the Scottish Parliament hasn't actually held a function, an event to mark the Commonwealth Games. I think that is something that we should recognise. I realise it's a new session, it's a new Parliament, but you know, we really need to get behind these teams, and we really need to be supporting the athletes. And I just hope that the parliamentary staff would perhaps consider having a parliamentary event before we go into recess, which isn't that long away, I have to say. Now, clearly the health benefits of sport have been articulated. Gillian Mackay talked about that. And I also think that whilst the support for grassroots is welcome, Scottish local authorities are under huge financial pressure, and they're facing challenges that are hampering the goals that are actually set out in Marie Todd's motion. And the words that in her motion that she uses, such as inclusive, physical, mental, social health, they shouldn't be used without meaning. And Marie Todd will know exactly what I mean by that. We should strive to achieve these goals. And if we are to seek these short-term and medium-term and long-term solutions, we must also ensure that local authorities have financial sustainability. Now, I see the time, presiding officer. I only had 4 minutes, and I'm not used to just having 4 minutes, presiding officer. We used to be a very effective opposition, I have to say. And I think perhaps we still are, because I note that Reform don't even have an amendment yet again. Now, there could be a division. I would just like to say the Scottish Conservatives support every amendment in the Chamber today, and we will be supporting the Scottish Government amendment at decision time. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Hamilton. We now have Mark Ruskell to be followed by Jenny Young. Mark Ruskell.
Thank you very much, Presiding Officer. And can I just congratulate all members who've been returned to this chamber. And can I just thank a number of members who've given their first speeches in this debate. Adam Harley, that suit fits you very, very well. Congratulations. I think Alan Smith's right. I think we've just been through a really hard election, particularly in Stirling. And I think we're all looking forward to some downtime this summer. So a summer of sport sounds pretty good to me. And I think for hard-pressed families, those free activities are really going to help to fill those long summer holidays. And I think for some young people, it's really going to ignite that new sporting dream, that ambition, or maybe they'll learn how to dance the Orcadian Strip the Willow. Lots of opportunities are going to be available to get active and to be part of communities. But first, of course, we've got the 15th of June, and clearly all eyes are going to be on our men's team. 28 years since John Collins thumped that goal into the back of the Brazilian net. And 40 years since a teenage, I think, Liam MacArthur sweated his way around Mexico with the Tartan Army. And the national holiday, of course, he's exasperated. The national holiday, of course, on the 15th is really welcome, but I'll give way to Mr.
Liam MacArthur.
Just for the record, I think while I was in the Nessa Walcoilto Stadium, I think I was exasperated. I don't think I was sweating overly, just for the record.
Mark Ruskell.
Well, I think that's a feat in itself, to be honest. But look, anyway, if I can get back to the speech, the national holiday on the 15th is welcome. But I do note that only one council in Scotland is actually giving the day off, and I really pity the teachers and students who are going to be forced into class having been up the entire night before. These are important collective national memories, whether they're on the TV or whether you're there in the stadium yourself or by the trackside, and they should be accessible. Fans should not be outpriced by exorbitant ticket prices or pay-per-view. So I'm really pleased that my colleague Gillian Mackay helped to secure the commitment for free-to-view matches for our national football teams and is taking forward the campaign today to the next stage for a price cap on stadium tickets. And it's good to see the Mayor of New York, following the lead of Gillian Mackay stateside as well. And I'm sure there will be more conversations to be had about exactly how a cap could be introduced. But I do welcome what I think will be government support for that Green Amendment today, and even from our dear colleagues in the Conservative Party as well, because clubs at their best are all about community, where no one's left behind, regardless of who you are and what you can afford. And I think Jack Middleton made a very moving speech about his personal experience and the importance of that accessibility. Very, very moving. And I'd like to pay tribute to the volunteers who really power that grassroots in every sport. People who turn up week in, week out to set up the pitches and the tracks, provide the taster sessions for the 4-year-olds through to the performance pathways for the promising teams. People who fundraise for better facilities and are always there in all weathers for friendly advice, marshalling, first aid or washing the kit. And it's the grassroots scenes across so many sports that nurture the talent and create that community. So I really enjoyed listening to Liam MacArthur talk about the Island Games. I wish I was there, actually, in Orkney in 25. And I think, the excitement and the community building that comes from an event like that, as exciting as the Olympics, For my part, I've just spent another slightly terrifying weekend living in a field with my son, supporting him race in the SDA Scottish Downhill Mountain Bike Series. And the camaraderie, the support for everyone at every age and level at these events is absolutely a wonderful experience to be part of. And for some, there is a part of bigger stage and future careers as well in that sport. And we're seeing this across sports. There's an elite pathway, but there's also that grassroots and that inclusion. So the legacy of the Commonwealth Games and the World Cup and the Tour de France next year, let's not forget the Tour de France, needs to be one where the grassroots is grown through better facilities, more confident volunteers, and yes, what the Minister talked about, the partnerships that we actually need to deliver that long-term growth. One where the doors are thrown open, where everyone is invited to join the party and get involved in whatever way they feel inspired to. And one where women's sport is visible, inspiring and supported, not an afterthought. And I think Jackie Bailey raised an important point about the last 100 years where women have been largely denied access to pitches and SFA facilities. I think I need to move on a little bit here. So nobody should be left behind. And I do share concerns from other members, including Jackie Bailey, just about the long-term funding issue, because we shouldn't need the Commonwealth Games to provide the impetus to teach swimming in schools. Alongside bikeability training, it should be part of the experience and life development of every P6 and P7 child. And I think Miles Briggs raised an important point. There is cross-party commitment here behind swimming lessons in every school, and I think that's something that we should be getting behind and delivering. Presiding Officer, I'm going to finish here. I think Stephen Bonner talked about the talent, the endeavour and the success that's there in our communities and how that is epitomised by sport. That's the summer of sport I'm looking forward to. Yes, there's a scunner factor out there, but let's get the positivity back. Let's have a great summer of sport and let's inspire communities and get everybody active.
To make a first speech, Jenny Young.
Thank you, Deputy Presiding Officer. It is a privilege to be making my first speech in Parliament as a representative of the people of Central Scotland and Lothians West. My own sporting career, if you could call it that, began in the early 2000s at Linlithgow Athletics Club, the Irene Langlands Stenhouse School of Dance and Linlithgow Tennis Club, peaking in the lower reaches of the University of Cambridge tennis leagues. It's safe to say Sporting Blues were certainly never on the horizon, and, Presiding Officer, I have stuck with the Reds ever since. I share my region's pride in our historic achievements as the beating heart of Scotland's industries. From shale oil, collieries, the Carron Ironworks, fire bricks at High Bonnybridge and Whitecross, Grangemouth Oil Refinery and, of course, Ravenscraig Steelworks. Our brass bands, our gala days, so much of our towns and villages' proud traditions have their origins in the industries that made Central Scotland the industrial powerhouse of our nation through the 19th and 20th centuries. But our area is more than its past, and I have come here to fight for a better future. My own working life has mostly been spent teaching French and Spanish in West Lothian secondary schools. Any teaching career, it's safe to say, is the sum of the joys and the woes of the young people that we spend our days with and our nights worrying about. The boy in my French class who could barely read a word of English, a native speaker of English, 7 years of primary education in this country, and he was functionally illiterate. Some days there was a support assistant with him, but with support stretched ever thinner across the school, that became less frequent as the months went on. A boy's life chances diminished by a school system that was going backwards, by the growing gaps in support that saw him falling through the cracks. It is clear to me that the choices and opportunities on offer to our young people today are narrowed and diminished below what any of us knew. And I refuse to accept that this is as good as it gets. I refuse to tolerate blaming these choices on other people in other places. I refuse to endure the constitutional bickering that elevates subjective identity politics above the objective fact that kids in Scotland are a year behind kids in England in maths. Why is that? Because that boy and all those children deserved a much better future. A future can be one where our schools are improving, not sliding down international league tables. Where kids struggling with their mental health don't wait years for an appointment. Where our colleges are adequately resourced and appropriately joined up with business and the needs of our economy. A future where sporting facilities are enhanced and growing rather than shuttered by local authorities, starved of funds by central government. Pretty hard to take advantage of a free swimming lesson when there isn't a swimming pool where you live. It is never guaranteed that the future will be better than the past. The people of Central Scotland know that all too well. Too many in our region feel left behind by those in politics, those with power, and those who know only privilege. But I believe in that better future for all of our children, and I have come here to fight for them. Thank you.
To make a first speech, Jamie Langan.
Thank you, Deputy Presiding Officer, and could I congratulate you on your new role, as well as the Minister on a reappointment and all those speaking to the Chamber for the first time today. It is a true honour to be elected to represent South Scotland in the 7th session of the Scottish Parliament. I know every member is likely to claim that their area is the best part of our fine country, but from its dramatic North Sea coast to the rolling hills of the Borders and the dairy pastures of Galloway, I would make a strong case that there is nowhere quite like the south of Scotland. While the wonderful parliamentary staff were providing our induction talks for the new cohort of MSPs, I was struck by just how few people have ever had the privilege of serving in this chamber. Since 1999, there have only been 415 individuals who have sat on these seats and debated in this chamber. It truly is a rare privilege we all have to be here. This rare privilege places an enormous responsibility on each and every one of us. A common theme that many members, new and old alike, have mentioned in their remarks so far in this session of Parliament is the deep sense of frustration and unhappiness they encounter at the doorstep right across Scotland. This is a sense of frustration felt by hard-working Scots that was apparent across the weeks and months of campaigning in the Borders and across South Scotland. People feel that their lives have materially deteriorated in recent years despite their individual hard work, that their communities feel increasingly strained despite the care they show for them, and that they are governed by a political class that increasingly cannot or will not address these challenges. I truly hope that despite our many political differences across the Chamber, we can work together to improve the lives of millions of hard-working Scots who have placed their faith in us to do just that, and that in years to come we can look back on a Parliament that made a meaningful difference, a Parliament of prosperity. Sport is one of the great defining features of Scottish society. If you were to ask any man or woman in the street who the greatest Scot is, they would almost certainly respond with a sports person. Sir Kenny Dalglish, Katie Archibald, the late great Doddy Weir. These people show us the very best of what it means to be Scottish. Hard work, dedication, a brilliant mercurial streak, and bravery in the face of adversity. And what a great year it has been so far for Scottish sport. A thrilling Scottish Premiership title race, famous Six Nations victories, and now a return to the biggest stage in world football. After 28 long years, Scotland are going back to the Men's World Cup, thanks to the hard work of Steve Clarke and his squad. A truly once-in-a-generation achievement. Indeed, perhaps a useful reminder to some members of this chamber of what once-in-a-generation really looks like. Of all the sports endured across all four corners of Scotland, football is truly our national pastime, with hundreds of thousands of Scots from all backgrounds and walks of life regularly playing and watching football, including many in this chamber. Of all 55 UEFA members, Scotland consistently ranks as the best supported nation per capita in Europe, from Annan Athletic in the south to Ross County in the north and everywhere in between. Scots right across the country passionately follow their clubs through thick and thin in a unique bond of love for their community. However, this passionate support has not always been reciprocated by Parliament and the Scottish Government. Football fans were subject to the onerous Offensive Behaviour at Football Act from 2018 to 2018, a clear and targeted assault on the civil liberties of match-going fans. While the repeal of this act was very much welcome, it was of course superseded at a society-wide level by legislation in the last session of Parliament that significantly curtails freedom of expression across Scotland. Alongside this draconian environment, law-abiding, match-going fans are currently unable to enjoy alcoholic beverages within Scottish football stadia, unless, of course, they have the privilege of being in a hospitality area. These two-tier restrictions are not applied to other sports or events. They do little to target genuine troublemakers, punish regular fans, and deprive smaller clubs of a vital source of revenue. This is something I hope we can work together to reform in this session of Parliament and provide a better matchday experience for those hundreds of thousands of Scots cheering on their club on a Saturday afternoon after a long week of work. It is, of course, incredibly important to remember it is not just team or ball sports that make up an important part of Scottish society. Traditional and country sports are inextricably linked to the cultural identity of rural Scotland, and this is nowhere more apparent than South Scotland. Whether it be angling in the River Tweed, race meets at Ayr, or driven shooting in the Niff Valley, country and traditional sports have been enjoyed right across South Scotland throughout generations of families and by entire communities. Towards the end of the last session of Parliament, we saw a ban on greyhound racing brought into effect, despite the last greyhound racing track in Scotland having already closed, suggesting an ideological aversion to traditional and country sports rather than an evidence-based and pragmatic approach focused on their continued sustainability that ensures the highest levels of conservation and welfare. Instead, it is those who interact with Scotland's animals and natural environment on a daily basis and who care for it most that feel they may be targeted with similar draconian legislation. I know many of my constituents in South Scotland and those in rural communities across the country fear that this session of Parliament may see the targeting of their beloved sports that form the bedrock of their community identity and often play invaluable roles in local economies. Important source of local employment and prosperity that would be very hard to replace. So, it is on the back of what has been such a successful year of sport for Scotland to date that I ask this Parliament to carry on a positive attitude towards the fantastic institutions and traditions of Scottish sport and those that support it. Whether it be match-going football fans or those who enjoy country sports in our rural areas, the many people that make up the fabric of Scottish society should be allowed to get on with their pursuits with fewer interventions from this chamber and instead be celebrated for their rich contribution to our identity. Thank you very much.
I call on Siobhan Brown to wind up the debate on behalf of the Scottish Government and to take us through to decision time.
Thank you very much, Deputy Presiding Officer, and can I congratulate you on your new role. Can I thank all the members for their contributions today. It's been really lovely to hear members speak about the upcoming Summer of Sports and the opportunities and also the outcomes we hope it will deliver. I welcome the amendments to the motion put forward by colleagues across the chamber, which further emphasise the collective value and the importance we all place on the transformative power of sport in our communities. And I'm happy to confirm that the Scottish Government will support all the amendments today. However, just in relation to the Greens, we should be clear that the local government are responsible for funding local facilities such as the Aquatech, which was mentioned in Motherwell. And I know that there has been discussions and no doubt some further discussions regarding the ticketing cap, and we absolutely recognise that sport should be affordable and accessible. Football is the country's most popular sport, and our leagues are the best attended in Europe per head of population. We will continue to work with the local football authorities to maintain and grow these levels of attendance and make football more affordable and enjoyable for fans. The Summer of Sport is an ambitious and inspiring programme that sits at the intersection of so many of my responsibilities as Minister for Children and Young People, and the promise, of course.
Graham Simpson.
Thank the Minister for taking the intervention. I'm sure, like me, she's really enjoyed this debate about sport, but I could only pick up 2 members who actually admit to currently taking part in any sport, and that is badminton ace Ershad Ahmed and top footballer Jack Middleton. I may have missed some, but would she join me in encouraging all members in this Summer of Sport to take part in at least one over the next few months?
Siobhan Brown.
Thank you very much, Presiding Officer, and absolutely I would support that suggestion. It connects to children's rights and services and outdoor play, and to my work supporting looked after children and young people and those with learning disabilities, autism and neurodivergence. Because this is not just a sports programme, it's a children's rights programme, it's a well-being programme, and fundamentally it is about equity, belonging and opportunity. And as we look ahead to what promises to be a really truly exciting summer, we recognise that sport has a unique ability to unite people and to inspire the nation, and we are determined to harness that power, of course.
David Barrett.
Thank you very much for accepting the intervention. As Chieftain of Inverkeithing Highland Games, I just wanted to ensure that the role of Highland Games are not forgotten in the debate of this motion. And could I ask the member if they recognise the cultural importance of Highland Games to Scotland's Summer of Sport? And can I extend an invite to everyone across the chamber to attend Inverkeithing Highland Games on the 8th of August?
Siobhan Brown.
Yes, absolutely. We need to recognise the importance of the Highland Games as well, not to be left out. Crucially, activities within this programme will be free, targeted or low cost. That matters because in the midst of a cost of living crisis, cost remains one of the biggest barriers to participation for too many children and young people. And at a local level, we will see commitment in action with funding distributed across all 32 local authorities, ensuring every community in Scotland can benefit. But from my perspective as Minister, what matters the most is who the programme is designed for. Yes, it is universal, open to all children and young people, but it is also deliberately targeted. The Summer of Sport is prioritising children who too often face structural barriers to participation, children living in poverty, children with additional support needs, care experienced young people, young carers and those in rural and isolated communities. And that is absolutely the right approach, because when we talk about children's rights, we're not just talking about the access in theory, we're talking about meaningful, equitable access in practice. And that means recognising that some children need more support than others to participate. Inclusion is just not an add-on in this programme, it is central to it. And while local authorities and national partners still have a few weeks to finalise plans, what we've seen so far has been really extremely encouraging. Across local authorities, national governing bodies and partner organisations, there is a strong, consistent focus on reaching underrepresented groups, creating accessible and welcoming environments, and removing barriers, whether those are financial, physical or psychological. Many of these plans are rooted in communities, delivered in familiar, trusted community spaces and supported by trained and inclusive workforces. And that is really particularly important for children with learning disabilities and neurodivergence. Through community-based delivery and partnerships with a third sector organisation, delivery will help create spaces where children can take part, they can feel included and they can build relationships. For example, Work in Glasgow will include an alternative engagement programme, which is Class to Clubs, which is designed as a targeted intervention for identified pupils who are currently disengaged, and using a progressive engagement model that begins with small group support. The programme will focus on those least likely to participate in physical activity, helping to build confidence and create pathways for pupils into both school-based and community sport. Cara Malcolm.
Can I thank you to the Minister for taking the intervention. I'm really interested in the points you were making about in our more deprived communities. It's really important that there's facilities that people, children in particular, are familiar with. And I just wondered, when we did the report in last term in the Health Committee around the use of school facilities, and I know everybody across the chamber is keen to do that, but I don't know if you've worked with people, because it can be very expensive to rent some of the school facilities because of some of the costs involved.
Yes, I take the member's point on board. The detail of the programme is still being developed, but once it is, I'm happy to share that with the member. Alongside this, Glasgow Life will deliver a broad programme with a strong focus on removing barriers for care-experienced young people. This targeted support will sit alongside universal provision, ensuring those with the greatest need receive tailored opportunities to engage and thrive. And similarly, in Aberdeen City, will prioritise care-experienced young people by expanding access to free or subsidised opportunities. But the Summer of Sports will not just be delivering activity for young people. It will create opportunities for them to shape and also to lead it. For example, Youth Scotland is developing proposals to support young people facing barriers such as poverty, rural isolation, disability or low confidence. And through its network of over 600 youth organisations, it will deliver inclusive, informal, locally tailored activities in trusted settings, shaped by young people with opportunities for leadership and peer mentoring roles. And the emphasis on young voice is a real strength in this programme. Because much of the delivery will take place outside, the wider Summer of Sport programme is also significant from an outdoor play perspective. We know that outdoor activity brings distinct benefits, from mental health, for supporting risk-taking and resilience, and for fostering a connection to a place and community. What I find particularly powerful about this programme is its place-based, partnership-driven delivery approach. And across Scotland, local authorities will be working alongside Active Scotland networks, leisure trusts, clubs and community organisations and the third sector. And they will be designing, it's not a one-fits-all model, and local plans will be shaped by local needs. So we are beginning to see the proposals that offer universal discounts and free access to existing programmes, targeted outreach into communities and leadership and employability pathways for young people. All this reflects a system that is working together to maximise reach and impact. Importantly, these programmes are being designed with pathways in mind, not just a single summer experience, but a bridge into long-term participation. And the investment in workforce and capacity building is vital to this. This matters because the legacy of this programme will not just be for this summer, it will be for stronger systems and workforce that remains afterwards. I'm just going to touch on a few contributions, if I may, during this debate, and can I recognise the first-time speeches and contributions from Victor Curry, Colm Merrick, Ishrad Hamed, Alan Smith, Stephen Bonner, Adam Harley, Jenny Young and Jamie Langan. And I'll touch on a few points, if I may, that Jackie Bailey, you mentioned also in your motion. I acknowledge that there are some concerns regarding the rollout of national swimming, but we all agree that swimming is vital for our youngsters to learn to swim. It's a core skill that can save lives, and I know this was mentioned by Jack Middleton and Colm Merrick as well. There has been a school swimming working group that's been set up with the Scottish Government and COSLA, and this will look at how this is going to be rolled out across Scotland, and I know the Minister for Sport will be happy to meet with Ms Bailey to discuss this further. Gillian Mackay, who raised in her contribution about sponsorship. So we recognise the Commonwealth Games were required to secure sponsorship because they weren't given any Scottish Government funding. However, we are working with the organising committee and Team Scotland to ensure healthy products are being promoted wherever possible. Miles Briggs, thank you for your wise words for all the new members. And Rachel Hamilton, your suggestion about having an event at Hollywood, I think it's a good idea. I don't know how it's going to be organised in the next couple of weeks, but maybe something after recess it could be organised. Colm Merrick, you asked about the evaluation and monitoring of the programme. An evaluation and monitoring plan has been agreed with partners, and this will be undertaken through Sports Scotland's arrangements. I do know that Sports Scotland are also contracting an independent evaluation of the fund to evidence the impact of the additional public investment. Adam Harley, you mentioned the potential closure of Ayr Diving Club in Ayr, being the only West Coast facility of diving in Scotland. I recently met with a constituent who was concerned about this local closure, and she told me about her son who didn't have much confidence, and she said, Siobhan, when I see him on these diving boards, he turns into a different boy. He's on top of the world and he's got all the confidence in the world. And that really echoed with me what she said. It is a local authority decision and it is up to South Ayrshire Council, but I do know that conversations are ongoing there. So that brings me to the final point I want to make. This programme is not about a moment, it's about a legacy. Yes, it's about making this summer a summer to remember, but more importantly, it's about creating habits that last, building confidence that stays with young people, and embedding participation in communities for the longer term. We want a child who attends a free session this summer to still be active 10 years from now. We want them to join clubs, become coaches, volunteer in their community club, or simply carry a love of movement through their lives. So when I look at the Summer of Sport, I see a lasting commitment. I see a commitment to children's rights, to equity, to inclusion, and also to opportunity. A commitment that no child, regardless of background, circumstances or need, should be excluded from the joy, the benefits and the belonging that sport and physical activity can bring. And I see a country coming together across government, communities and partners with a shared purpose to make this not just a great summer, but a transformative one. Thank you, Presiding Officer.
Thank you. We now move to decision time, and there are 4 questions we put as a result of today's business. The first question is at Amendment 208.1 in the name of Jackie Bailey, which seeks to amend Motion 208 in the name of Marie Todd on Summer of Sport be agreed. Are we all agreed? Yes. We are all agreed. The next question is Amendment 208.3 in the name of Gillian Mackay, which seeks to amend Motion 208 in the name of Marie Todd on Summer of Sport be agreed. Are we all agreed? Yes. We are all agreed. Oh, sorry, we're not all agreed. I knew this Summer of Love couldn't continue much longer. Okay, we will therefore move to a division, and we'll suspend for a moment or two until we access the digital voting system.